Ghanaians spared of the imminent increase in fuel prices tomorrow, July 1, 2014. Well, this is because the National Petroleum Authority has maintained the prices in its latest price review despite earlier indications of a 20% increase. But why should this come as good news to the consumer when the automatic adjustment formula has been tampered with? This is today's big story. My name is Prince Mika. Well, you're still on today's big story here on Joy News on Multi TV. Welcome to the program. Officials of the National Petroleum Authority, the Chamber of the Bulk Oil Distribution Companies, and other stakeholders met this weekend to deliberate on the price review and other matters. A public relations officer of the National Petroleum Authority, Yaro Kasambata, explained that there will be no increment, at least for the next 2 weeks. He indicated that his outfit is monitoring the situation and the public will be duly informed if it will warrant an increment in 2 weeks. And if the situation will remain same for the next 2 weeks, we'll let you know. Absolutely. Those are quotes from Yaro Kasambata. And he mentioned that this new development obviously means the petrol will still go for 2 cedis, 73 pesos per litre. Diesel still goes for 2 cedis, 68 pesos. Kerosene, 2 cedis, 61 pesos. Premix, 1 cedi, 25 pesos. While liquefied petroleum gas is at 2 cedis, 87 pesos per kilogram. And the last time the prices changed was on April 16, when the price for diesel fell by about 4%. But how safe are we when there are indications that an estimated 50 million Ghana cedis will be spent in this price subsidy? And of course, government has so far paid about 450 million out of the 1.8 billion debt owed the bulk oil distribution companies. Oil marketing companies are obviously not too clear with the new development. Gwagwajiman is with the oil marketing company, and he joins us on the phone line here on today's big story. Thank you very much for joining us, sir.
Yes, good evening, Prince. How are you?
I am doing fantastic, but a lot of Ghanaians are left in a state of confusion at this particular moment as to whether to be excited at the fact that petroleum prices will no longer be increased, at least until the next review. What's your take on that?
You know, we have been, for the past 10 years, we have been talking about deregulation of the sector, full deregulation, and it looks like go around and come back to the same thing. The intent of purpose of that is that if we have full cost recovery pricing, to ensure that we have a lot of fuel coming into the country, we will not have affected ourselves with this shortage. And for us, our position is such that, yes, government has got prerogatives to subsidize, but we want government who can subsidize in such a way that the money will be available as and when it's needed. And if it doesn't, then obviously we run into difficulties like we are witnessing now. So to answer your question, I believe that even if we don't have any fuel price hike coming out from the commodity market, what will be happening is our own exchange rate loss. The question is, how do we do the exchange rate losses between now and the next time that we have price review? And that's something we need to be thinking about.
Absolutely. But again, one would also argue that here we are all over again. The automatic adjustment formula has been tampered with. Yaro Kasambata explained that it does not automatically mean that there's no way they can review to suit the condition at a particular time. In this situation, there was fuel shortage. Now, do you have a feeling, like many do, that the National Petroleum Authority somehow was under pressure to do this? I mean, suspending the increment.
Yeah, well, basically, we have always had the issue of, there's a portion of the NPA Act, which all of us have to avail ourselves to. I think Section 4 of the Act, which talks about the independence of the authority, which arrogates the policy direction of the authority as to the minister. So it falls under the purview of the minister, and that's where the government derives its authority and power from, because that's that portion. And if anything, some of us had got a different view on that. We think it shouldn't have been that way. So it got a lot of thinker coming from the government as and when. So NPA will be doing his job, but his independence is subject to the policy direction of the minister, and that's what happens.
But such pressures like this particular one, if it has what do you call it, repercussions that will be of disadvantage to the fuel consumer, would that be the right step to take?
Yeah, I mean, you can look at it both ways. Disadvantage is what we are having right now. It gets to a stage where government will not have enough money or don't have the wherewithal to finance the subsidy or assure us for the full cost recovery. And if it doesn't pay, and we have a result of fuel shortage, where it becomes adverse effect on the people the government is trying to protect. In the sense that the fuel will not be available, the hikes are all around the place, businesses suffer, OMC suffer, the BDC suffer, and the whole supply chain, everybody suffers. On the other side, people will be momentarily happy that there's no price hikes, it's not going up. But we live to go about it on another day. And just in the next 2 weeks or next 1 month, we see what is going to happen.
Further confusion you're projecting. But for the oil marketing companies, how do you feel about the situation? I mean, we're not going to see an increment. Does that put you in a disadvantaged position in any way?
Yeah, basically, we have invested in the industry so much. You see the stations flying around, they're long-term investment. And so if you have any situation where we have, like we are witnessing, shortfall, I will thrive on the volumes. So if you don't have the volumes going out alongside with that, and the stations are idle, we suffer a lot. There's so much losses coming to us. We are business people, and we are not comfortable also with having our customers in this state. We want to have constant flow, and it helps us to repay our debt, settle our financing thing with the long-term finances. And that's what really hampers us. And with the BDs, when it happens like that, we lose a lot of interest coming from the banks. Now the whole industry becomes a risk-prone industry, and the banks are reluctant to release anything to us. As we move forward, it becomes increasingly difficult. And this way back 2009, we found ourselves in the similar difficulty, and we have to work as hard as possible to win the confidence of the bank. But now we are losing it, and that's how these things brings into the chain, and which we are not happy about.
Now, I've heard you on a number of occasions talk about the fuel price subsidy and the stance government should take. You've mentioned time without number that government should come clear on it. Now, with the petroleum price shortage or the fuel shortage, it triggered that particular debate all over again, and many had called on government to come clear on fuel subsidy. What for you should be the general stance of government on this?
I think it's not a good practice to do a wholesale subsidy for the whole industry. I don't think it's something which is tenable, and because government has not even got the money to be able to support that. We understand in every situation there will be a safety net, but the question is, are we targeting the people who really need the subsidy? I.e., for instance, we all know GPRTU is there. It's one of the things. We have to do the hard thinking. If the GPRTU is the recognized place where we realize that most people are using the GPRA route, we have to think about a way of subsidizing GPRTU in such a way that, which includes all that, they can help the poor and leave the mainstream. We can't have somebody having a Ford Tundra and using a lot of fuel and you want to subsidize. I don't think it works out. So we need to rethink our process. Our stand is not against subsidy. We know in every situation subsidy, but subsidy should be well targeted. But it doesn't get to a situation where all the 25 million people, because the government's inability to fund the subsidy, that we are all in trouble. We don't have to get to that stage.
But rough estimation, though, how much would government need to have realistic subsidy?
Oh, basically, I mean, it's quite. I need to do some calculation now, but because the figures keep on changing, so the dynamics keep on changing. You need to really look at it. Yes,
and so,
but it's quite substantial. If you assume like you're having 6 million liters of supply a day, and even if it's 2 weeks, you are going to have, let's say, 5 working days. You are going to have 6 times 5 times 2. And that's about 60 million liters. And concerning 60 million liters and you're subsidizing, it's not going to be easy. That's even for one product. If you go to the other product, which is diesel, obviously you're going to have 2 times. We're talking about 120 million liters. So subsidizing 120 million liters 2 weeks is quite a lot of money.
And so in the next 2 weeks, if there should be a review, what will be your general expectation? I'm talking to you as someone from the oil marketing company.
My general review is that we should have full cost recovery in the price build-up. I.e., we need to be rethinking whether even the exchange rate, we have to use spot or use forward movement. Because looking at the way things are moving, every day now, the exchange rate is changing. And we also look at the oil price and see how we can make full cost recovery to last for the next 2 weeks. And it's all forward thinking. We don't have to use spots anymore. I think we need to rethink and make sure that we have full cost recovery and we have a safety net for the poor.
Very well. I'm going to have to thank you very much, Mr. Ajimanjia, for talking to us. And he's with the oil marketing company. Shortly, we'll be joined on the line by the Executive Director of the National Petroleum Authority, that's Moses Asare, who obviously had earlier actually warned government not to continue to subsidize petroleum prices and charge wrong prices. And he had hinted that Ghanaians should brace themselves to pay the right price for fuel if they want constant supply. Now, he's going to be joining us on the phone line shortly, and he'll take us through the meeting they had that led to the suspension of the fuel price increment. Again, we're going back to tempering of the automatic adjustment formula. What are the implications? And if there should be a review in the next 2 weeks, exactly what should we expect? Should we expect prices that would further worsen the current economic situation in the country, or should we be looking at subsidy? And if indeed we should be looking at subsidy, what then is the stance of the National Petroleum Authority on this? Moses Asare is Executive Director of the National Petroleum Authority. He will join us shortly on the phone line. So we'll do a breakdown of some of the automatic adjustment formula processes that we've gone through in this country, and he will get to tell us exactly how far we've gone with us. But this is still today's big story here on Joy News on Multi TV, and certainly when we come back, we'll talk to Moses Asare. Stay tuned. Well, this is still today's big story here on Joy News on Multi TV. Shortly, we'll be joined on the phone lines by the Executive Director of the National Petroleum Authority. Already, they've mentioned that they're going to deal ruthlessly with those who tend to hoard fuel. But apart from that, exactly why were we spared of the imminent increase in fuel prices? Now, the last time we heard from Yaro Kasambata, who is a PRO for the National Petroleum Authority, he had indicated that this came after a strategic meeting was held prior to the increment of the fuel prices. But what led to this particular stance taken by the National Petroleum Authority? And there are other questions begging for answer, including exactly why would they want to maintain fuel subsidized when there are other matters that needs to be dealt with. We'll be getting into those areas as and when we're joined on the phone lines by the Executive Director for the National Petroleum Authority. But let's check out scenes at some of the filling stations early on today. There you go. Those are shots indicating that, of course, there was fuel shortage, and a number of road users, taxi drivers, private car, private vehicle owners were in a distress situation, and the situation was so uncomfortable that some people who had spoken to Joy News had indicated that they were ready if the National Petroleum Authority should increase prices of petroleum, but all that they needed was to have a situation where there was enough fuel at the filling station and that they wouldn't have to go through this discomforting situation. But as and when we're joined by Moses Asare, we'll go through that particular thoughts that some of you have already expressed on social media as per the fuel price increment and the fact that we've been spared of it. But does that make you excited in any way? Obviously, those are the questions that we'll be putting to Moses Asare as and when we're getting. But we're also trying to put on the phone lines some representations from representatives, for that matter, from the ASEP, and obviously we'll get to find out their views on the issue regarding subsidy on fuel and where we should go from here. But then again, this is still today's big story here on Joy News on Multi TV, and shortly we'll get on the phone lines Moses Asare, who we are told earlier on was driving, but that's when we get him, we'll put him on the line and we'll get to know exactly what issues are there. But other questions that we're likely to raise with him include exactly why would the National Petroleum Authority want to maintain fuel subsidized when we all pay those on taxes on petroleum, and how is that even possible? And in their next review, how much is likely to go into subsidy? And should we really be looking at subsidizing fuel? Well, you've heard from the oil marketing company boss, Ajimamenu, when he spoke to us a while ago. He mentioned that they would want realistic full cost recovery for that matter. But how possible is that? And we'll also be looking at a situation where we'll find out from the National Petroleum Authority if it would inconvenience anyone should there be a review later on this year as far as the automatic price adjustment formula is concerned. And now we'll also be joined on the phone line shortly by Ben Boakye. He is the Programs Director of the Africa Center for Energy Policy, and we'll get his perspective on this particular matter here on today's big story. As and when we get him on the line, you can understand the situation with the line sometimes it gets really bad. But a couple of moments ago when we got Moses Asare, he had mentioned that he was driving, and obviously he would speak to us as and when we get him. But when we get him, we'll put those questions to him here on today's big story. But like I earlier indicated to you, per the current stance of the National Petroleum Authority, means that petrol will still go for 2 cedis 73 pesos per litre, and diesel will still go for 2 cedis 68 pesos. Kerosene will still go for 2 cedis 61 pesos, and premix will obviously go for 1 cedi 25 pesos, while liquefied petroleum gas is still at 2 cedis 87 pesos per kilogram. And the last time the prices changed was somewhere in April 16 this year, when the price for diesel fell for about 4%. But the question many have been asking is, how safe are we when there are indications that an estimated 50 million Ghana cedis will be spent in this price subsidy, and government has so far paid about 450 million Ghana cedis out of the 1.8 billion Ghana cedis that owed the bulk oil distribution companies. Well, the oil marketing companies had already hinted to us that they are not too clear when it comes to the issues of subsidy and government stance on this particular matter. As and when we get Moses Asare, we'll put him on the line and we'll get his thoughts quickly, especially on this particular issue. This is still today's big story. We've just been told that he is in a meeting, and I'm talking about Moses Asare. We're told that he's in a meeting, and that's the more reason why he's unable to speak to us. But questions remain, and they're begging for answers. Exactly what led to the situation where the petroleum price increment was suspended? Is it that the National Petroleum Authority is under any form of pressure? Could it be as a result of the current situation we all experience, and the fact that there's been fuel shortage and the current economic conditions has gotten the National Petroleum Authority to take this stance? Well, if this is the stance that they are taking, what then lies ahead of us in the future when there's another review as far as the automatic adjustment formula is concerned? These are questions that are begging for answers, and as and when we get authorities of the National Petroleum Authorities, we certainly will get to speak to them. But that'll be it for now, though, on today's big story. Unfortunately, we couldn't get the NPA to answer those questions, but coming up shortly is Marian Ture with JN Interactive. Stay tuned.